Today I'm in the heart of downtown Wichita. There's all these old, interesting historical buildings, and we're going to learn about some of those buildings and a little bit about the history of Wichita, where I currently live. I'm standing here in front of the Museum of World Treasures. So at the end of this video, we'll go in there and check that out as well. Just to the left of the entrance to the museum, they have these really interesting historical markers slash displays, and we're going to use this as the basis of talking about Old Town Wichita, which is where we're at right now. So we're going in chronological order. There's two of them that say 1872. We're going to start over here because it talks about some of the kind of beginnings of the town. I've done a video previously that talked about some of the early days of Wichita, and so if you're interested in that, you can check that video out. But it talks about in 1872 here, Colonel Marshall Murdoch published the first issue of the Wichita Eagle. They still operate that today. And it's cool how they show some old pictures here, because as they talk about the warehouse district, you can literally see what the buildings are. It's a little different, not the same angle, but you see some of the old buildings here around the downtown area. Our next display about 1872 talks about the railroad. That was obviously really important to the beginnings of Wichita. And so I'll take you over there and show you the old depots and railroad areas that helped build the city. But in 1872, the first railway provided the link to Kansas City, and then in 1880 a second line was added, Frisco, that connected to St. Louis. Got some nice Bob Marley in the background as we're checking these out. The Rock Island Depot, as you can see pictured there, that's still here, and it's a bunch of restaurants. It's near kind of the more modern big depot, but this was the original one, Rock Island, and there's a Rock Island Street that's just literally right over there where that car's at. And in 1887, the Rock Island Railroad arrived, offering a line from Chicago. Really helped the city grow. And it was the passenger terminal until 1914. It was placed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1974. Hey, that was the year I was born. Moving on to 1905, our display here is about the Simmons Hardware Company, and I'm going to come back to that here in a second. But you can see the building right there, the Hardin Simmons Hardware Company, and as we just move a little bit this way, you can see it right there. That's hotel at Old Town now. The Morton Simmons Hardware established its business on First Street in the large warehousing district around the rail connections east of downtown Wichita. The popular Keen Cutter brand name emblazoned on the cupola made the building an instant landmark. Held 20,000 gallons of water for the state-of-art sprinkler system found throughout the warehouse. It also says, containing more wholesale space than any other building in the city, it housed more than 79,000 pieces of merchandise. The building's technology included messenger call boxes, house telephones, and electric elevators. Now moving on to 1908, we're gonna show the Hockaday Paint Company building, which is actually right here. And this is called River City Brewery now. The Hockaday Paint Company, the successful One Climate Paint prompted Hockaday Paint to expand. Wichita got a brand new pub when River City Brewery set up shop in 1993 here. The building had been occupied by Southwest Paper since 1941. Move over here, we're gonna go 1 year later now to 1909. They're missing the 1 right there. So Coleman, that's a Wichita brand. You might have bought a cooler from Coleman at some point of your life. And so this was not actually right here in the vicinity of where we're at, but St. Francis Street is just over a couple blocks. But this talks about the Coleman Company. I'll go over there and show you St. Francis Street while I'm talking about this. In 1889, Coleman found the lamp would change his life. The efficient lamp had mantles, not wicks. It was fueled by gasoline instead of coal oil. Found great initial success with his no light, no pay policy. His service eventually expanded as far as San Diego and Las Vegas. First quick light lanterns were produced in 1916, billed as the sunshine of the night. Q models became known as the Great Farm Lantern. Pretty cool to see some of the old Coleman stuff, the sunshine of the night. You know, Wichita State actually played one of the first night football games that was lighted by Coleman way back in the day. The first ever night football games was played here in Wichita. Made sense with Coleman being here. One of the first night football games in the United States was illuminated by Coleman lanterns suspended from poles along the sidelines. Could you imagine? Been tough to see. Admiral Byrd carried a Coleman lantern on his expedition to the South Pole. Got a couple of them marked 1914. Let's go over and show you Union Station. It says here, the City Commission forced the railroads to elevate the East Douglas tracks, which solved the problem having the Santa Fe, Rock Island, and Frisco lines crossing, often blocking the street. It also proposed single unified station to serve all the lines. So the Union Station was just the natural progression of the railroad here in Wichita. We're blocking all the traffic with all the different lines. So in 1914, Union Station opened at a cost of $2.5 million. The building was a hub of activity. Travelers and their loved ones gathered in the huge lobby for cheerful welcomes and emotional farewells. Closed in 1980. So I actually got to go up to Newton, which is a few miles north of Wichita if you want to catch a passenger train. Another one here labeled 1914 talks about the Johnson Fraser building, which is on the other side of this. Fireproof, rat-proof, mouse-proof. This is how the Johnson Fraser building's earliest occupant, Wichita Fireproof Storage Company, built the concrete and brick Goliath when it was opened in 1914. So they have a big market out here when the weather's a little warmer than it is now. Looks nice, but it's a little chilly today. But usually they have a big farmer's market out here. It's on Saturdays throughout most of the year. And now 1919 talks about Ennis Wholesale Furniture Company. It's just down the street, so let me show you that. You can see the original building there, but the George Ennis Dry Goods Warehouse opened in 1919. It bought, manufactured, and sold furniture and home furnishings, and then 1998 the building was converted into Ennis Station, an apartment community. (115) North Rock Island Road, so just right here next to where we're hanging out. City Ice delivery was here. Operated before refrigerators. Employees worked hard to deliver enormous heavy ice blocks to homes throughout the city. So now we move over to 1922. The current Larkspur restaurant over there on East Douglas is just down the street, around the corner. And it was 1903 to 1922, housed a series of businesses. First James C. Smythe Hide Company, then Beacon Tire, and then 1922 Modern Cleaners. See what the old place looked like compared to the new place. For almost 7 decades, William Dye was known as the Chili King of the West. Built his international business on imported spices and peppers with Wichita as his headquarters. They're at 120 North Mosley. Gave American soldiers during World War I free samples and a spicy reminder of home. And finally over to 1987. You think, what's historical about 1987? Well, that's kind of the date they talk about, how they turned all this into Old Town. So 1980, downtown Wichita and the adjacent warehouse district were in decline. The exodus of businesses and retailers left many buildings in the area dilapidated and vacant. Fortunately, a committed group of professionals stepped forward. They created the Old Town Association. A group of individuals took a plan to the city of Wichita. The city would pay for street work, parking, lighting, farm and art market. Sedgwick County pledged infrastructure assistance. In 1990, all financing dried up when the Kansas Department of Health and Environment reported groundwater pollution in the area. 1991, Wichita City Council approved a bold cleanup program that kept the revitalization process moving forward. So throughout the early 90s there, they were getting things cleaned up and figured out, and different businesses started opening, and it took about a decade really to get everything to what it's like today. So there you go, little history of some of the buildings down here in Wichita. Pretty cool that they have this display. So let's go check out the museum and see what other historical things we can learn about that's right here in the middle of Wichita. There are 3 floors to explore in the Museum of World Treasures. As you can see, there's people from all over the world who have visited this terrific museum. On the first floor, it has a lot of different type of historical things, more significant historical things, I guess, like the Berlin Wall there, and lots of dinosaurs and old times like the Ice Age. And so it's a really large area with so much stuff. I can't show you everything. This video would be hours long to show you everything that's in there. But I'll just kind of show you some of the things that caught my eye. I like the old monies and this cool timeline of different leaders throughout history. I thought that was a pretty interesting thing to check out. They had a whole room about Egyptian history, which I found to be pretty fascinating. And then heading up to the second floor, you have different choices of which way you want to go. I went and obviously checked them all out, but I headed to the Civil War area first. There's Ulysses S. Grant, who's from the same county that I grew up in, Brown County, Ohio. So I always like reading about him. And there's another cool timeline of the Civil War. And then over to the medieval history. It's pretty cool to see the old armor. This was a really cool part of the museum. It was all these different things about every American president. And I'm fascinated by presidential history, and so you could spend a lot of time going through this area, and they had every single president. And you can see Bush and Obama, then Trump and Biden, and they didn't have much about Biden up yet, so they have some work to do there. And right next to Trump's was this letter from him recognizing the work here at the museum. That was pretty cool. Now we head over to kind of World War I and World War II, and some very interesting things. And there's also little videos throughout the museum like that playing, people talking about history of the different parts of the museum. So very well organized, and just so much stuff to look at. You know, you could spend hours and hours. Luckily, I got in free because I'm a staff member at Wichita State, so they let me in free with my ID there from the university. And so it makes me think, well, I'm going to come back many, many times to be able to really take in everything. The Wild West probably one of my favorite parts to check out. They had, a lot of history about cowboys and Indians, and as they put on the display, romanticizing the West. So very interesting and cool displays. And finishing up here, some Kansas history, because we had a significant part in the Wild West. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I highly recommend coming down to Wichita and checking things out for yourself. Thanks for making it all the way to the end of that video. And now that you're here, let me tell you a little bit about some of the extras that we have on the channel. One of the things you can do is you can become a member. There's 3 levels. There's the supporter level, there's the producer level, and the executive producer level. And all 3 levels have different perks, and as you are more supportive financially, there's more perks. We have extra videos every week and a lot of fun stuff going on in the member section. If you haven't done so, make sure you check out travelwithawiseguy.com. We've got lots of extra stuff on there, and one of the things is merchandise. You can get you Travel with a Wise Guy t-shirt. We have Death Go Round t-shirts. We have some coffee mugs, different things that are a lot of fun, and people seem to have enjoyed. Good quality there. Also on the website, you can do things like check out the Google map. I have a pin dropped in every place I've done videos about, then a link to the video so you can look at the map, and maybe there's somewhere where you live or somewhere you want to go. You can check out that map, and it seemed to be a very popular thing. You can sign up for my newsletter. I do that about every 3 weeks. It's totally free. And there's also all kinds of other links and tidbits in there, old videos, podcasts, just everything I could think of I throw on the website. So make sure you check out travelwithawiseguy.com. Thank you for everyone who has been supportive of this channel, and thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. And now for the reason you're probably here, the outtakes.